Okay, so the first type of one-step equation is a multiplication equation. In order to solve these, you do the opposite and you will divide. So you divide by the coefficient. That's the number that's attached to the variable. So if I have 3x, x is the variable, 3 is the coefficient, so I would divide by 3. So let's look at this first example. We have 2t equals 14. This means 2 times t. So to get the t by itself, which is the point, we need to divide by 2, and we have to do it on both sides. So then we're left with t equals 7 because 14 divided by 2 is 7. Another example would be negative 3x equals 21. I want the x by itself, so I'm dividing by negative 3. Don't forget the sign on both sides. So 21 divided by negative 3. I know my math facts. That is negative 7 because a positive divided by a negative is a negative. The second type of equation is a division equation. So they give you a division problem. You solve it by doing the opposite, which is to multiply. So this problem says t divided by 2 equals negative 6. What's the opposite of divided by? Multiply. So I'm going to multiply the first side by 2, and you can write it as 2 over 1 if you want because it's a fraction. And then on the other side, I also multiply by 2. This time, don't write a fraction because negative 6 is not a fraction. These 2's divide out, so I'm left with just t or 1t. If you like to write the 1, you can. 6 times 2 is 12, but there's a negative, so I make it negative 12. Negative times positive is negative. Another example of a multiplication problem might look like this. You might have 1/3 times x. So how do I get rid of a fraction? I multiply by the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 1/3, if I flip it over, it would be 3 over 1. So you can write it as 3 or 3 over 1. But basically, this is what happens. The 3's will divide out. It ends up being like 3 over 3, which is just 1, which is what I want. There's 1x. And then since I multiplied this first side by 3, I multiply the second side by 3. 5 times 3 is 15. So the fractions, you just have to remember you're multiplying by the reciprocal. It doesn't look like straight division. Okay, the third type of equation is an addition equation. My slide was messed up, but yours is correct. So if you start with an addition problem, you're going to subtract in order to get the variable by itself. So if I have y plus 8, I want to get rid of the plus 8, so I'm going to subtract 8 on both sides. So the plus 8 and the minus 8, they will cancel each other out to 0. So I'm just left with y equals, I have a negative 2 and a negative 8. Since the signs are both negative, I'm going to add. 2 plus 8 is 10, and I'm going to keep the sign, which is negative. So y would equal negative 10. Okay, so if you have a subtraction equation, you do the opposite and you will add the constant on both sides. Sorry again for my typo, but your slide is correct. So if you have y minus 12, to get rid of minus, you will add 12 to both sides. And since here the signs are different because the 5 is negative and the 12 is positive, that's when you subtract. So 12 minus 5 is 7. I have more positives, 12, than negatives 5, so the overall answer is positive 7. So that's how you do each of the different types of equations. So now that you know, you're going to do some practice problems. I think there's 8 of them, and then you'll be ready for your exit ticket.